The eCom Seller Summit was created to prove that with the right tools and training, anyone and everyone can make money in e-commerce. So many people want to try their hand at e-commerce, selling on eBay, Amazon, Shopify, and more, but they're afraid they won't be successful. This summit will show you that there's many ways to do e-commerce, and there are many platforms you can explore, because e-commerce really has no limits. It really can pay your bills, and e-commerce never sleeps. There's nothing like waking up to profits from getting sales all night long. My name is Nicole Whitlock, and this is the eCom Seller Summit. Hello, this is Nicole Whitlock with the eCom Seller Summit, and today's key feature speaker is Jeff Schick. Now, Jeff is the co-founder of Seller Basics. He's actually an attorney and a former seller. So Jeff and his business associate is actually with us today. So welcome. I am so glad that you're here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. Katie and I are glad to be here to talk about all things Amazon and suspensions and what we're seeing and going on and for the seller community. So thank you for having us.
Oh, well, you know, that is a deep, long story because there's a lot of sellers frustrated since last March. Okay.
Yeah. I know, time flies though. I mean, last March was, every day is a different story, but there's always some way that, sellers, there's interesting stuff going on Amazon and e-commerce, whether it's Shopify, BigCommerce, Etsy, Poshmark, eBay, you name the platform, Walmart, Amazon, you name it, we're seeing and helping sellers in it. So it's always a fun challenge and definitely something that people can learn. And actually, one of the things I'm really glad that you're doing with the eCom Seller Summit is going beyond Amazon, because so many things just focus just on Amazon when there's so much more to e-commerce that people are able to learn from. So I can't wait to see some of the other sessions.
Absolutely. And we're grateful that you take time out of your right now super, super busy schedule to even do these sessions. So,
absolutely. Well,
yeah,
it's all about giving back to the seller community, and education is key because you can't grow if you don't learn. And this is, I think you've built in a fantastic program for sellers to learn from.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So I'm going to back up and let's talk about some of the things, and we'll get into what we're seeing now. Yeah. But we know that this has been a journey for a lot of sellers since, we'll say February, but it's really March, when Amazon said, okay, if your product is not essential, then basically they're held our inventory hostage. So sellers had to get creative and figure out what to do, and then how to do merchant fulfilled or fulfilled by a merchant. So then the transition over through the summer until now. So can you talk about what you were seeing at the beginning of the onset of the pandemic and the type of challenges that your team was trying to help address for sellers?
Well, so first off, the biggest push we saw last February and March, I remember it distinctly, it was March 7th, was, suspension gate, where we had, dozens of sellers get suspended in one day for price gouging. So that was the first major challenge that Amazon sellers faced that we had to help. And then from there, I think it was like maybe March 10th that they sent out the email saying, hey, if you're not essential, your product can't come into FBA. And so it was like people went from the frying pan to the fire, because those who didn't get suspended now got this email, and everyone was, now everyone was panicked. So that was, so lots of education opportunities. I was fortunate, when I was in law school, I had done a lot of fulfilled by merchant. So I had a lot of experience with that. So we were able to, work with our seller members and the Seller Basics. And, like I was, they were calling me, and it's like, they're not talking law. We didn't talk legal. But for almost the entire month of March, I was talking every single day with sellers of how do you send in a product to FBM? What do you like? Why should you buy shipping through Amazon? To avoid A to Z claims, all that sort of stuff, and all those different things of how, because, when you're used to sending in FBA, and you're like, say you're an RA seller, an OA seller, or even private label, you're used to FBA. And then all of a sudden now you're putting labels on boxes, it's really foreign. It's not something people are used to for packing and prepping their own products. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I don't want to gloss over one of the things that you just said, which was a piece of gold. Yeah. Well, the fact that, people had to figure out how to do FBM and the fact that you recommended that they fulfill through Amazon shipping versus anything else.
Absolutely. I mean, when you do buy shipping through Amazon, you're protecting yourself against most of the A to Z claims. Most of the tracking metrics that if things gone wrong, you're protected. And Amazon, in exchange for a slightly more expensive shipping option, although not all the times, like for instance, if you do USPS shipping through Amazon, it's the same price or cheaper than what you get at the post office. So anyone these days that I see shipping Amazon packages at the post office using that little kiosk, I'm like, you're crazy. Like that makes no sense. But when but definitely buying shipping, it protects your account because all those different chargebacks and A to Z's, it's almost as if you're shipping through FBA in most cases. And so you're able to protect yourself against those major hits that you could otherwise face.
Okay, so those that are taking notes, that's your first tip.
Yes.
This pandemic, we don't know what's going to happen beyond today. It's, this virus is mutating and all kinds of interesting stuff is happening. So we have no idea what's next. But one of the tips early on is to definitely buy your shipping through Amazon.
Absolutely. Same with eBay. You can now buy shipping through eBay. Or at least
Yes,
always have been able to, but it's whatever platform you're shipping through. If they offer a buy shipping, most of them reward you for it because I mean, let's be realistic. They're arbitraging the shipping. They're making money. They're doing what you're doing, and they're going to reward you for it. So
that's
think
true.
about it.
Well, keep that in mind, guys. So make a note. So then after like February, or I'm sorry, not after February, after April. So we get into May, they start releasing some quotation marks in the air. Some people's inventory. People started to get hip to the game gradually May, June of FBM. So what were some of the challenges you were seeing in May and June, and also maybe July, as their inventory was no longer held hostage? Amazon started letting up on some of the, what they locked down. What were some of the things you were seeing then?
So the first couple months of the pandemic, brands were relatively quiet. IP claims didn't happen all that often. I mean, they were still happening, but to the level that we're back to, sort of normal IP claims, for instance, you didn't see that in, February, March, April, and May. But as people started refining their work from homes, companies started laying off law firms like Voorhees from sending letters. All of a sudden, letters from Voorhees go down, IP claims from brands go up. And so we started seeing an increase in IP claims, an increase in IP related account suspensions. And so you start getting back to some level of unfortunate normalcy, but that was but it caught a lot of sellers off guard because things that they didn't worry about for several months, now all of a sudden they're worried about. Same thing like the metrics, late shipment rates and order defect rates for a while were not counting against sellers for FBM because Amazon wasn't penalizing people who'd never done it before. Well, those all started to be enforced in June and July. And so now sellers are on the hook. So some sellers developed systems that might not have been policy compliant because it was just, they weren't being penalized for not following policy. And so then they had to now, got to go back to the drawing board and come up with new policies and such. So it's
this has been a journey. I will just, and I know it's been a journey for you guys as well, and
right.
It's a journey for sellers to just try and work through what's next. So, do you think that I'm going to ask a question? Some of the things that we were hearing out in the community is the increase in IP claims was because Amazon had like released some staff, like whole departments and staff, and so like AI was taking over, and there wasn't a human like auditing some of that. Is that some of that's true, or was that just people just talking out in the universe?
Unfortunately, I think that's people talking out in the universe. Amazon never really has audited the IP claims just because the way they get their safe harbor protection is that they have to have a what's called, it's aptly called a notice and a dispute team. So if you've ever seen the Amazon IP claims, they always come from notice dispute, some creative name, but it's like under federal law, and federal standards, they have to have a notice team, which is somebody that receives the notices. Now they don't have to vet those notices for accuracy. So Amazon doesn't want to vet those notices for accuracy. The reason being is that if they start playing judge and jury on it, then they start to take on some liability. So they maintain that safe harbor status by basically saying, okay, we have a channel, send your notices here, and we're just going to process them and send them out. So and then when it's up to this, and it's up to the sellers to then go and dispute them if they're not right, which is extremely difficult to do because Amazon, again, that's why, if you're not going through an attorney, it's like nearly impossible to get these IP claims off because Amazon doesn't want to handle disputes. They don't want to be an arbiter of whether this IP claim is valid or invalid. They want somebody else to make that decision, which is why, we come in and help out with those so much.
So part of that is weird because there are people like myself who've been selling some things that they've been selling for like 5 years without issue. And then all of a sudden now I have an IP claim. So we know that they do have AI to do some level of checking. But so why would you say like a seller that's been selling a product, maybe 20 different products or 30 different products that they've been selling nonstop for the last 5 years, and they've had like over 5,000 or 3,000 sales on it, or several hundred sales on it. Now you get an IP claim on something you've been selling just fine.
So
it was a trigger for that.
So interestingly enough, it's usually humans. So I'll give you a personal example. In 2011, when I started selling on Amazon, I started selling a pet shampoo, and I thought, no one's going to buy this pet shampoo. And close to 100,000 bottles sold later, but come 2018, I get an IP claim for that pet shampoo from the manufacturer who found out that I was selling it on Amazon and didn't want it being sold on Amazon. So it was, there it was, 7 years of sales, tons of sales, and then they come and hit me with an IP claim because they're mad that I was selling the product and they didn't realize where I was selling it. I guess they thought I had a pet store. I don't know, like really good pet store.
Well, that's odd. I'm going to say that that's really odd. And so I was also seeing people who have private label being hit with IP claims for their own private label products.
A lot of that is black hat competition. Unfortunately, because there is no human checking for a lot of these claims, some of the black hat community members have realized that you can take down your competitors, make their life hell, take the top rank, get Amazon's choice badges from them, basically steal their accolades by just submitting IP claims that knock them down for a couple days and allow you to go in and steal the sales and raise in rank. So that happens a lot in the private label community, as like I was talking to a seller last night even who was saying, oh, all my competitors have stolen my stuff. I want to start doing takedowns. I said, just be careful, because just like you can take them down with an email, they can take you down with an email, and they're not in the United States. So your incentive to be truthful is that you could get arrested for making false declarations. You could get sued. They're not here. There's no repercussions for them making false statements. I mean, there are, but they're not to the level that you would face as a US-based seller. So that certainly can cause a lot of private label disputes, and we see it, unfortunately, quite a bit.
Wow, that's very interesting. So IP claims that started, because we definitely saw an uptick, a major uptick after the pandemic started in IP claims. And then, of course, they've continued. They have continued now. But so what would you attribute the uptick in right after the pandemic started in IP claims? What would you attribute that to?
I think it's brands realizing their products are being sold on Amazon. They maybe didn't want them sold on Amazon or didn't want them sold at certain price points. And so now their teams have figured out the work from home. So once their team started working from home, someone in marketing learns about brand registry, decides, oh, I'm going to try this brand registry thing out and start filing IP claims against people that are selling our products and maybe they're MAP violators or something else, and they're Amazon now, and now they're trying to control Amazon distribution in that regards. So I think it was like, COVID knocked everyone out. So the essential functions, payroll, bookkeeping, sales, like all that continued at these big brands, and they all hands on deck to make sure they could get products where they needed to go. And then once they figured that out, then you started seeing these brands being like, okay, well, now we can get back to trying, our little secondary projects that like cleaning up Amazon in their work, and they're cleaning up Amazon that they would want to do.
Okay.
Another interesting rise, I don't know if you've seen it, but we saw a ton of used sold as new claims. So, Katie's become an expert at used sold as new claims on our team. And so that's been probably since Q3 and Q4 of last year, Q3 20 and Q4 20. That's been just tons of used sold as new claims we've been helping sellers with. And I think that again has to do with buyers purchasing products. You have this huge increase in buyer volume, but you have a huge increase in buyer return volume, and they don't want to pay for shipping, and they don't realize that, checking the item is defective or doesn't work, or one of these other ones that gives you a free return label comes at the cost of a seller getting a metric ping.
Oh my God. Well, the returns. Yeah, we're going to come back to the returns.
Yeah, we'll get to that. It's a whole discussion we'll get to.
That's a whole discussion, because a boatload of sellers are like, what the Sam Hill? Like, the returns are ridiculous. Not just on Amazon, like on Walmart, which is a whole different beast in and of itself. Their return rate is just like everything is a return for Walmart. Whereas at least we feel like there's some level of control on Amazon. But again, we're going to come back to it.
Right.
So for those people who actually did get approved to sell those brands and they are still getting IP claims, like, because as sellers, we can go through the process to get approved to be able to sell the brands, and we still get an IP claim. And what do you attribute that to?
So it's interesting. The brand approval process typically happens for brands that are at high risk of counterfeits. So you've got like Nike, Coach, Chanel, or not Chanel, but like Michael Kors, like all the different, like luxury brands, the name brands, Under Armour, those ones are all gated, so to speak.
Right.
So when you go and you request approval, you're requesting to get ungated. So you're getting approval from Nike, but you're not necessarily getting approval from Nike. You're getting approval from Amazon to sell Nike. So I think I just misspoke that. I meant to say you're getting approval from Amazon, not Nike itself. So when you're submitting all these invoices, with the exception of a few brands that have sued Amazon enough to get their own little approval channel, which good example is KitchenAid, but we'll talk to that in 1 second. But if you're like your standard brands that can be ungated, when you're putting in that ungating request, you're getting approval from Amazon, not the brand. So you are ungated, you're unrestricted, you're allowed to sell it according to Amazon, but the brand can still go in and file those IP complaints. Now, if they're saying you're selling counterfeits because you're unauthorized, that'd be a false counterfeit complaint. But unfortunately, that system allows them to file that, and then it's up to basically us to go fight it and get that taken off the account. So that's where someone still gets the IP complaint, even though they're approved by Amazon to sell a brand, because the brand still has the ability to go in and dispute that approval, so to speak, by saying that you're not allowed to sell it.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to figure out, like, there's definitely got to be a correlation. I don't know where some of the other stuff like plays into it, because everybody was going home to work from home. Nobody was in offices, so everybody's working remotely, and then they're still trying to manage with their kids around, and still do their regular jobs. Okay, so so trying to figure out how these brands are doing that. So I know like a couple of them, I actually reached out and did get approval from the brand to be able to sell as a distributor.
Nice.
And then you still get the IP claim. So you're trying to figure out, you got approval, you send that in, and it's actually an approval from the brand itself to be able to sell it as a distributor and to be able to sell it on Amazon, and you still get an IP claim. So what would you say like the contributing factors to that is?
That is internal teams not communicating. So believe it or not, we've seen it happens quite often. Someone, Nicole gets approval. You maybe went to Jenny, and Jenny gave you the approval, Jenny at the brand, and she gave you the letter. Well, somebody else is in charge of that, like maybe Jenny is in the legal department. So she gave you this letter saying you're allowed to sell. Well, somebody in marketing manages the brand registry, and Jenny didn't tell Sammy that Nicole is allowed to sell. So Sammy goes on and goes, whoa, there's a new person selling this product. Bing, IP complaint. And then now you're like, well, wait, I just have this letter. And it's just, internal teams at the companies not talking with one another. And so right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, unfortunately, sometimes when you get, especially with big companies.
Okay. So did AI play any role in some of the weirdness we were all seeing early on? Did it play any role in any of it?
It did. So automated intelligence at Amazon did play a role in the price gouging. That's for sure. So like when we talk about pricing alerts and fair pricing policy violations, that definitely played a role because we had some people, selling, like I remember there was one, he was selling like a can of chicken that he purchased at Kroger for like $2 that Amazon.com, as the seller was selling as for like $20 and he had it for sale for 10 and he got a high price alert. And it's like, there's no, what do you want him to give it away for free? Like at that point, he just goes and donates it to the soup kitchen. He's not going to, sell it.
Make any money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we were seeing, I can tell you, I personally got high price notifications on stuff that Amazon's also on the listing and their price is the same as my price, but I got notice and Amazon is the seller. Like, right. Okay. So how are you helping people resolve crazy stuff like that? Like, okay, I'm selling for the same price you're selling for Amazon and you're sending me a letter to tell me that the price is too high.
So that's a little bit interesting. That's where we put on our lawyer hats and got to play lawyer. And we actually used that as evidence at different Senate hearings and to some of the state attorney generals that we were working with on behalf of sellers. And we would just, so like I'll tell you, there's one state that we were working with one of the sellers and we got contacted Amazon Legal because of it, because Amazon Legal was making the argument that the seller was price gouging. We're making the argument to the attorney general that there's not. And we're working, basically battling Amazon. And then because of it, obviously we could see the Amazon Legal's contact. So we reached out to them. We're like, hey, I think we all ultimately want the same goal here, which is no price gouging, because it's not like we want price gouging, but you got the wrong person. And we were like, look at this evidence we've got from these sellers. And so we actually were able to take that packet of evidence to them and say, hey, check this stuff out. These people are not price gouging. The can of chicken, all this stuff that's, the high price alerts. And they actually resolved it the next day. They're really, Amazon Legal is good at one thing, and that is resolving, issues when they're wrong. That's
good to know. Okay. So then I was going to say, and I've also seen where every seller is selling this product for the same price. And like, it'll be funny because, sometimes like if we do a bundle or we do as a group, we decide we're going to go in on a bundle. So maybe there's 8 of us on it. We've all like, it's a co-sharing situation. So we've all gone in to buy the pallet, put the bundle together, send it in, package it up, send it in Amazon. So there's like all of us, everybody that's on the listing is us.
Yeah.
And so of us, maybe there's 8 of us on it. Like 5 of us got a notice of a high price and the other 3 didn't. And we're all selling the same product. Like, you didn't get a letter? No, I didn't get a letter. But I got a letter. Why'd you get it?
That sounds like Amazon.
So again, when sellers see that everybody else that's on the same listing that they're on, what is the recommendation on how they try to resolve some of those things? Like, all of us have it for the exact same price. What is going on, Amazon?
I mean, that's one of the areas where seller support can actually be your friend. You can send, an email to seller support, ask them to open an investigation, let them figure out what's going on with this high price alert. If it's a legit, just like a lot of that is AI gone wrong. So if there is a legit, problem, they're happy to resolve it and, find in sellers' favors. They are there to help. They're not, it's debatable.
Here we go. They've sort of made it harder for sellers to actually get to a human over several months. You're like, okay, how do I get to a human? Let's go click on this one, come down to this one, come down. Like, you literally have to almost game the system to be able to actually get a human to call you back.
Correct. That's the unfortunate side effect of COVID, especially because Amazon's seller support was terrible beforehand. They've gotten a little bit worse since COVID, but hey, it's COVID. That's their excuse.
Yeah, that is their excuse. So we knew that there were like I said, staffs or departments that were gone. Then I also heard that, even some private label sellers that used to have, I don't know if it's concierge level support with Amazon, but that they even lost their concierge level support because, again, Amazon was letting groups of people go or shutting down groups of departments. Are you seeing that was the case for some, high, even 7 and 8 and 9-figure sellers?
Unfortunately, yeah, they did lose the free support. So a lot of them that had free account management did lose those. The ones where Amazon had monetized it, like SAS Core and such, where they're paying thousands of dollars a month, a lot of them were not affected. So it just depends, because obviously with SAS Core being built on volume, the higher volume sellers, Amazon wanted to, hey, give us your money, give me it's still going to keep going. So they're not going to cut that off. But, yes, they definitely did do that where they, anything that was free, was not high on the bucket of Amazon keeping going.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. Okay. So now let's get back to these awesome IP claims.
Okay.
So can you tell me now, within the last, I guess, 6 months, what are the top, I don't know, maybe top 3, top 5 IP claims that you're seeing that people are having challenges with? What are they running into?
Well, so broadly speaking, false counterfeit complaints are always number one. And Amazon, in the last, I think around November, they added a new category of counterfeit complaints. So they added what's called the confirmed counterfeit complaint. So historically, Amazon just had, infringement type counterfeit. And then around, November-ish, they added the confirmed counterfeit. And what that means is that if I don't know what brands were able to get that confirmed status, but the ones that were able to have this confirmed counterfeit, those had much more weight. So we were seeing sellers with a confirmed counterfeit have their accounts usually suspended within about 24 hours. Whereas a typical counterfeit suspension or a typical counterfeit claim will lead to account suspension at some point. You never know when, but it's not quite as rapid as the confirmed counterfeit, which was just like, as soon as we see sellers with those, we're like, we've got to get on that today or else you're going to be suspended tomorrow in most cases. So that's been a major shift that we saw at Amazon in terms of IP claims. Beyond that, your typical IP claims, copyright claims definitely increased. I can't say why that happened with COVID, but it's something we noticed. There's an increase in copyright claims, and then trademark claims, and patent claims. Those all were about normal levels. They haven't had any, they're back to their normal levels. They're not, through the roof like the counterfeits.
Okay. So counterfeit claims. So confirmed counterfeit, like what is Amazon's process to even, or do they have, maybe that's what the problem is. They don't have a process. We're just going to flag them as a confirmed counterfeit, even though we don't have an official process that everybody's universally following. So what is their process so that people know about confirmed counterfeit?
So we generally, we don't know exactly what would cause somebody to be a confirmed counterfeit versus an regular counterfeit or unconfirmed counterfeit. The one thing we saw in common with those confirmed counterfeit cases is that there was always a test buy by the brand. And so so the brand did a test buy, waited a few days, received the product, then went in, filed a counterfeit claim. So, that's kind of the big one there. Brands that we've noticed that have been especially difficult to deal with IP claims, not like in dealing with Amazon, so to speak, is there's a lot of sellers right now that are buying like subscription boxes. And so they'll, get like this, box full of, like shoes and clothes or whatever. And I know about this one because my roommate in law school, she would get these boxes every single week. They would show up and they'd be like full of clothes. And I'm like, what is this nonsense? Like you'd have like her makeup box and her
cosmetics,
all these different boxes that would show up. And so, what some sellers have done is they've realized you can arbitrage the products inside there. The problem is that you don't have a receipt for the products inside there. So if you get an there's no way to fight it on Amazon. You have to hire lawyers like us to go after the brand and show that, hey, you're filing these false complaints. And so that's what we've seen a rise of. And it makes it really challenging because, without the documentation, we're going to the brands and dealing with them directly. And it's just, definitely a different situation than historically when sellers have invoices.
Okay. So the subscription boxes, okay, that is a thing. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. A lot of the times the stuff that's in the subscription boxes will say like, sample or not for individual sale or won't have a UPC on it.
Right. So that's where we get a lot of issues.
So it's clearly that it's not for resale. Yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately, sometimes people get those. And even though it's like, it might be a 2-ounce bottle in the subscription box and it's a 2-ounce bottle on the Amazon listing. The one on this box says not for resale and all that stuff. And they send it in because it looks close enough. And then that's where the issues start.
Yeah. Not very smart. Not very smart. Okay. So as far as other challenges, I forget, I'm sorry, your name. Okay. Well, some of the things that you're seeing, what are some of the things that you're seeing or the things that you've been handling lately?
So, well, going back to the IP claims, I feel like there's some brands that we just see a lot, like a much higher volume. So just a bunch of brands that are popping up over and over again. So they seem to be very aggressive versus other brands that maybe don't file these complaints as much. So some of the brands are like Sharper Image.
Yes.
No, can't say the brands.
Yeah, we can.
A lot of brands.
Yeah.
Brands out. And so, yeah. And it seems like wherever people can, I guess, just leave it there.
Yeah.
But with the those new claims, I don't know if with you guys talked about the rise in coronavirus, so the sellers couldn't use FBA anymore. So when they're doing FBM and shipping and packaging, so a lot of times when you're doing your own packaging and shipping all the stuff out, that could be a reason why there's a lot of different use sold as new claims if it's not packaged right. If the package it's not quality and it opens, it breaks. A lot of customers will then put, oh, this is used sold as new because there's a scuff on it, or it's different packaging, it was in a different box. It's not the packaging it typically comes in if I was to buy it from the store.
Oh, I have one that you picked up on.
Which one?
So a lot of sellers will say, Amazon ships my product this way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So like the poly mailers, the bubble wrap mailers.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And then sellers are like, why don't I ship it that way?
Right.
It does not work. It's lots of use sold as new claims from bubble mailers with products that are semi-breakable. So.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
I would think that if I package it really well, it would still arrive, not broken. But it's
so like think about like, so we have sellers that'll sell like shampoo, and they'll send a shampoo bottle in a poly mailer. Amazon ships it that way, but you don't get dinged through FBA if Amazon ships it and it explodes mid.
because it has the little smile on the outside. It's the brown with the smile, and we probably send it in USPS. Yes, maybe some bubble wrap around it. Okay.
Yeah. So that same packaging, when it explodes, and then FBM, then Katie is tasked with writing the appeal for explaining how they did not use enough packing material and that's the root cause and what we're going to be doing differently to fix that going forward.
Oh my gosh. Yes, because we're always wondering, why did Amazon send this small thing in this giant box with all pillows, air pillows in it?
Yeah.
That's why. I guess
high return rates.
Yeah, then high return rates.
Yeah.
Late shipment rates is another thing that we saw popping up quite
Say
a
that
bit.
again. I couldn't hear you. Say that again.
Late shipment rates.
Oh yeah, boatload of those. Boatload of those. Yeah.
Well, those came up recently.
So.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we know that a significant amount of that was due to USPS.
Yes.
FBM seller, you're probably using USPS. So we know a significant amount of that was due to USPS. And I can remember, I think Amazon sent some notifications like the return window. They extended the return window so that people could file claims if they were going to return stuff. We knew about that. And then I think that they did have something on the site about some delays in the arrival. So how were you helping? And this is, a lot of people, the main problem was USPS. I think FedEx and UPS probably had some issues too, especially when UPS drops it off at USPS, which is annoying. But anyway, very annoying for sellers. And we don't know when they're going to do that. That's part of the problem. So how are you guys helping people, or what do you recommend, either one of those answers to those questions? How are you helping them, or what do you recommend to deal with or address that late shipment situation?
So number one for late shipments is use a trackable courier service, in Amazon speak. So whether it's UPS, USPS Priority, FedEx, Amazon Shipping. If you're in California, believe it or not, you for a while were able to actually use Amazon Shipment, TBA, Transportation by Amazon. That was kind of cool. I don't know if they're still doing that now, but it was just a thing for a bit. Using one of those delivery services where there's tracking, really important. Second step is when you're dropping off your packages, and sellers are going to hate me for saying this, but I have, just from my own experience, I have never blindly dropped off packages at the post office or at UPS and assumed that they're going to be correct. So what does that mean? It means that I go in, and I would go in, when I was shipping out, all those pet shampoos in law school, and I'd go in with 300 packages to the UPS store, and they'd scan every single one by one. Beep, beep. There's a 25 unit limit, by the way, on a receipt. So after 25, they have to start a brand new screen, and you prints out all the receipt, and I'd literally walk out of there with 10-foot long receipts from them scanning every single one. But the key is that by walking out of there with that receipt, I knew that I was going to get paid for every one of those units. They were going to get scanned in on time, and it was not my problem after that point. So anything that happened after that was somebody else's problem to deal with. Yeah. So
and a lot of us will get the notification on our phones, so they drop off like a boatload of packages. I'm one of those people who dropped off a boatload of packages, and then I start to get the notifications because I have a UPS account, so I get the track, all of my notices on my phone. So then I don't stay. So you're saying stay and get the paper too.
Right, because there was a couple times, when I had faith in humanity, and just drop it off and see what happens. And then I 3 days later get like a notice, be like, Amazon be like, you never shipped this. I'm like, I shipped it. It's dropped it off. They're like, where's your proof? Well, now that's a good story. That's a good question. I don't have any proof. And then they're like, okay, well, we're just going to treat it as if you didn't. And then a week later, it'd show up. It'd get scanned in at some point in the system, probably still in the same city, and because they found it, and then
probably somewhere still in the back somewhere.
Yeah. And then it'd get scanned in, and then it'd end up getting to the customer, and then Amazon would be like, well, you're still late. So yeah, so I used to be lazy about it, and then I got to the point I'm like, every package, every time. And yeah, it adds, 30 minutes to an hour, depending on your volume. But then you just have that security of knowing that when you walk out of there, you can literally say, I hope I never see these packages again. And I don't really care what happens to them, because whether you're shipping to FBA or shipping FBM, I always do the same thing. I always get that receipt, because then I've got proof that it's become UPS's problem. And from a liability perspective, it really truly has, because once they scan it, they've accepted custody of it. So
that's true. They have, even though a lot of us have been dealing with challenges with that situation as well, because it has been scanned in, we have the receipt, and then now it's a back and forth between me, the customer, and FedEx, or me, the customer, and UPS, and it's a very frustrating situation.
Right.
Okay. So what other, items, let's talk about what we need to be thinking about when it comes to either IP claims or any other things that you're starting to see or you have been seeing an uptick in. What
do you think sellers need to know about receipts?
Receipts. Well, you got to keep your receipts. You got to keep your invoices and keep them in good condition. We've had some sellers that if you get a really long receipt from somewhere, so they'll cut it up and cut it and try to paste it so it all fits on one piece of paper. That doesn't really work out. Amazon doesn't like that. But what we've noticed is Amazon has like robots, or I guess you could call it AI, that go through and they'll look at the receipts the first time. And so what they'll do is, if you use some kind of like Adobe or software to edit the receipts and circle it or put a box around it, they'll flag that as having been forged or manipulated. So then Amazon will deny the receipt, deny the appeal because of that. So we encourage sellers to be very careful and diligent. And if they want to highlight the particular ASIN or product on the receipt, we always suggest that they do it manually, like physically highlight it in yellow or pink and then scan it in. That way the bots don't flag it as being forged or manipulated. So that's one of the big issues we run into.
Yeah.
So here's my deal. So I teach as a trainer, I teach that especially if you're doing retail arbitrage or whatever, that before you leave the cash register, you write on the receipts, the information you need to write on it, so you have it from a taxation standpoint. Yeah. So that's what I teach them. Like, don't even leave the register, because the chances are that receipt, you might go outside, maybe a windy day, and that receipt flies down the street. So I tell people, like, take a picture of the receipt and email it to your, whatever reporting email address. So I set up NicoleTax@gmail.com. So I scan it in on my phone, and then I write on it. I take pictures of it all the way down, and then I fold it up and, of course, put it in my bag, or fold it up and put it in my wallet. And so I have it, and I email that receipt and all those pictures to NicoleTax@gmail.com. So I have it for accounting purposes and tax purposes. So you're saying me writing on it may be creating some challenges?
Well, it depends. So writing on it is typically fine. It's when sellers use Adobe. So like this Adobe Acrobat, or Photoshop, or one of those others, where like some sellers will actually take the receipt and scan it in, and then go in Adobe and use the little highlighter function and the pen tool and start writing the stuff like, oh, this is this.
Using it that way. Okay.
Yeah.
Not a physical pen, but online software. Okay. So my technique is good, because mine is going to come across as an image. It's not going to come across as an Adobe or a PDF or anything like that. It's literally going to be like, oh, this is an image file. Like, yeah, it's a real receipt.
Now, something you might want to think about, though, is they make a really neat receipt scanner. I
do have one.
It fits in your pocket, though. It's a pocket.
I do not have the little one. I need to get the little one.
And then you can be at the register and literally just feed it in, and it'll convert it to a PDF so that you have it if you need it, and then you can always print it out again if in full size. Just save some time.
Well, I have the big one. Sorry, I'm pointing here, and it's on my shelf. My shelf is on this side. But anyway, I have the big one that I literally will come in and just slide it in through there. And so I use it for everything, medical records and all that other stuff. But I use the big one. So I'll have to look for the small one. That's a good tip.
And the Epson makes a new one for the big ones. It's made by Epson now. A lot of sellers like that one because it's really fast and it scans in really high quality and low image size, in terms of compression. Okay. So it's kind of just an interesting little one we've seen in the field that a lot of sellers swear by their Epsons. So
okay, I'll have to look up that one too. Maybe that'll be something I recommend to people we train. So I will not tell them to stop doing that, but I will recommend that they get the little neat handheld one and not to use, because you never know what you're going to have to use the receipts for anyway.
Could be inauthentics, could be expiration date proving, could be used sold as new claims, IP claims. You never know what you're going to need the receipt for.
Right. And if you have invoices, those are easy because it came to you from whoever the wholesale supplier is or whoever you got it from anyway. So invoice, order, receipts, all of those, you've got those. And so there's no need to really write. I mean, you could write on them if you wanted to, but you've got whatever you need on there. So.
Yeah, writing on it can be helpful if you've got back in my Amazon days, my typical invoice would be 18 pages long because I hated inventory ordering, so I'd do it once a week, and I'd just go through and I'd literally pull a thing and be like, okay, I need all these products, and so it'd be 18 line items, and then you get these massive invoices that are just the way, at least the way my supplier sent everything. It was it'd have lot numbers, expiration dates, current promos, all that stuff. So you'd end up this 18-page thing. And so if you have big invoices like that, it makes sense to have, to write on it, be like, okay, this is B01HG, blah, blah, blah,
Okay.
So they know what they're looking for.
I just don't want people to be freaked out about being right on it. So the key is using an editing tool like Adobe to write something on it if you have to submit it to Amazon.
Don't use a software like that.
Yeah, the key is not to use that because that's gonna trigger it.
Yes, old school technology.
Right. Yeah. Old school. Print it out. Old school. Yeah. Okay. All right. Works both ways for inauthentics and for your taxes. So
exactly.
Because the IRS will take that one too. So okay. So what other thing?
And either way, if you get a call from Amazon or you get a call from the IRS, give us a call because we work on it either way. Because on our team, we've got, Paul Rafelson, who's our corporate and tax lawyer. So he does all the M&A. So if you're going to sell your Amazon business, he's the one to talk to. If you have a tax letter, all that stuff is important. Now, another big trend we're seeing now is product safety. So Katie, you want to take the lead on that?
Oh, I mean, or we're talking about product safety liability, or whether it's turning in compliance letters for what Amazon's been requesting, a lot of documentation, especially when it comes to child product safety.
Yes.
So we've been seeing a crazy increase in that. And then if you don't get the documentation of them soon enough, maybe they'll suspend the listing, the ASIN, the product. That's been a crazy, yeah.
So, and I do have a question about that because, again, we have sellers that have been selling these products for potentially years.
Yeah.
And now today, for whatever reason, now I got to send you information. I got to send you the, is it the MS?
The CPC and the lab test, the ASTM lab test.
Yeah, like why do I now have to send this to you? And I've sold 5,000 of this. Like,
so I'll tell you, it's kind of interesting. Amazon recently was sued for a lot of money, and whenever Amazon gets sued for a lot of money, they start figuring out ways to make sure they don't get sued for a lot of money going forward. So children's toys became a hot button issue for them. The Wall Street Journal did an article recently about how all these products were being sold on Amazon that didn't meet child safety standards. So Amazon's response is, initially when the article came out, this was about a year ago, was we need CPC certificates. There's only one problem. Anybody with Microsoft Word can make a CPC certificate. The template is literally on the cpsc.gov website. You download it for free and make it yourself. So what does that lead to? That leads to sellers making CPC certificates. So then Amazon realized, okay, CPC certificate, we need it, but maybe that's not the right thing to ask for. So then they said, so what do we need to do? Well, we're going to ask for the test results that are used to substantiate the CPC, because by law, you're not supposed to issue a CPC unless you've done XYZ tests. And so then they said, okay, so we want the CPC and the evidence used to generate it. So then now sellers are coming to us going, I can get the CPC, but I can't get the lab test. What do I do? And that's now been the new, that's the new problem that we've been seeing in the last week or so that we're helping sellers with. And in some cases, like if you're a wholesale seller or a private label seller, it's get the test. Even some RA sellers we've been working with, we say, hey, testing can run as cheap as $300. I was talking to a seller today. She got a quote from a really reputable lab we send all of our clients to, and it was $300 to run the test on her product. She's an RA seller. She sells, maybe 20 or 30 of these a month. It's a replen. She has a source to buy it. Like, it absolutely makes sense, spend 300 when you can make 600, it's not.
So is it going to create a challenge when she's getting her test by one company and then somebody else that's also on the listing is getting their test by another company, and we're all on the same listing, but we got 5 different tests coming in from 5 different sources? Is that problematic?
It's a great question. So far, we haven't seen it to know the real world answer, because a lot of sellers don't do the test. So we're lucky if we get one to do it. So
okay.
So that's unfortunately the answer there.
That's the answer today. Okay.
Yeah. But I would imagine if Amazon received multiple tests, it'd be an interesting thing to see what happens.
Like, look, you told them to get tests. They found the company. Leave them alone. Okay, so what else are you guys seeing? What else are you seeing?
Well, product safety goes hand in hand with product liability. So Amazon has always required product liability insurance.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have.
And as of 2 weeks ago, they've started asking for proof. And so now it's and it's interesting because I got asked for proof of product liability insurance back in 2016. Amazon sent me an email. They said, you have 72 hours to get us your insurance certificate or your account will be suspended. I happened to have a product that caught on fire in somebody's house, and so that was why that happened. But I luckily had product insurance, liability insurance, and it was no big deal. No one was injured. The house they just needed a new wall outlet, and the lady was happy that I gave her a free replacement product. So I got really lucky there. Could have been way worse if she wasn't in Alabama.
Wow.
So
That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah, so it's sort of always been happening, but it's always been a reactive, like, oh, you've got a problem, we want to see your insurance. Now it's a proactive. So people are, being asked to provide your insurance certificates, and they're rushing to get it. So
okay, so this is the lesson learned that I'm picking up on. For those sellers that are been selling for a while, or maybe you're a new seller, You need to like probably turn on Google alerts for Amazon. And anytime that there's a lawsuit, you just need to know that there's probably going to be an uptick on something that they didn't previously require, and you
Yeah.
just get that Google alert so you are ready to deal with it. I think that's probably the lesson learned here.
Yeah, Amazon, people like to say how creative they are. They are very creative, but they're also very reactive. So they're very much oh crap, this happened. Now what do we do about it? And where's our screwdriver? Because I see some sellers. So.
Oh, us sellers. Oh, us sellers. Well, and I will tell you, there's been, I will say, probably a mass exodus of sellers leaving Amazon, or because of the fact that they feel like they've just gone through it. Like, okay, I got these. One of my team members, and I know that this is not like there's people that have way more. She had 287 IP claims.
Wow,
that's a lot.
That's quite a bit. Was it suspected or received?
I think it was suspected.
Okay.
And just the number of the emails, the notifications, the questions, the DMs I get. Okay, we got a whole bunch of late shipment. How do I handle this? We got A to Z claims. How do I handle this? I got all these IP claims. How do I handle this? Like, oh my gosh. Okay, well, I've been selling this product. Now they want me to, give them this. Like, it's just ridiculous, the number of things that we're seeing. And it's just been a massive uptick, of course, since the start of COVID-19. I'm sure that prior to COVID-19, it was just happening. It felt like randomly, and maybe it was happening more than just randomly. But I can tell you, since March, the number of people messaging me or saying, I'm done with Amazon. I'm tired of this. I'm frustrated. I used to be able to sell this. Now I'm no longer ungated, or they want this, and I can't sell this brand anymore. I can't sell this product anymore. I'm getting an IP claim for this. I got a claim because somebody didn't get a shipment. Like, they're just tired. Resellers are tired.
Makes sense. It's a lot of work. I mean, unfortunately it is a business, and so it's the best run sellers we work with. They have teams of people. You've got people that shop, people that pack, people that monitor the account, and and of course outsourcing, because if you try to be a jack of all trades, you end up not doing any of them well. So you have to be able to learn to delegate and send things to the right people. So it's like some of these massive brands that we work with, what we always notice, they've got they have a PPC guru that they send all their PPC to. They don't in-house that. If they have they've got creative teams. They have someone that's really good at creative that does their creative. Maybe not on staff, but just somebody that they know is a graphic artist or whatever. And so and then of course, they send, their legal stuff to us, and we do that. So it's like you have people in their different pieces of the puzzle. And then at the end of the day, that's how you have 7-figure profit, because you've got every single piece running together. And individually, that PPC guy's way expensive, or that, creative person, you're like, damn, we paid that graphic artist that much money. But then you look at it, you're like, but our bottom line is that much. It really is. It's
worth it. Yeah, that's true. That is
like y'all's incredible graphics that Katie saw the Facebook cover that I just uploaded, and she was like,
I was like, wow, we should put that on our website. That looks great. Who did that?
We use Graphic Rhythm Designs, who is actually one of the speakers in the summit. And they actually do graphics for Amazon sellers. That's how he started the company, is he does graphics for Amazon sellers, doing the photos and the images for private label products and whatnot. So Graphic Rhythm Designs, and I recommend him. His name is Ian Bauer, and I've been using him. I left Design Pickle. I was so frustrated with him. So anyway, that's
an intro to Ian. That I would really appreciate that if you don't mind.
I will tell him, and I will give you his contact info.
Thank you.
So one of the questions, and I know we're getting close to the end of this. So product brand registry. There's a couple of things. People like me, I create bundles, and so for the longest time, if you were approved with a GTI exemption in whatever category that you were in, you could create the bundles that you need to create. But now they've added another layer to it that wasn't there. But in the last 9 months, I feel like it was 9 months. I don't know when it It happened. Everything is after the pandemic. So let me just say there was life before the pandemic and now life after the pandemic. So after the pandemic, sometime.
It was August for the GTIN change, by the way.
Yeah.
So
What I was like, what is going on here? Like this was not a problem before. So can you tell us like what you know about the new requirements for the GTIN exemption and brand registry and how they married the two together and made a whole bunch of people's lives a little more challenging?
So what they're trying to do is to ensure that the brands on Amazon are registered brands or that they're correct. I mean, granted that they know that some brands are not going to go on and claim the brand registry page. Even, for instance, I don't anticipate Walmart claiming the Walmart brand registry page anytime soon. So so they know that that's going to happen. But they, at the same token, didn't want people just creating all these different brands all the time that weren't registered because it creates issues in the catalog. So the major change that happened with GTIN exemptions is that they wanted you to have a registered brand in order to request G10 exemption. The alternative is you can still create new brands, just come with a G10. G10s are expensive though because you have to go to the GS1 and register it there. Either way, they're looking for some sort of third-party validation, it seems like. Because if you're going to GS1, you've got that third-party validation through them, or if you're going on brand registry with a trademark, you've got third-party validation through the U.S. government. So that's what they're looking for, is that so that they have validation of these brands that are being created on Amazon. So the big change is that if you wanted to create bundles and use a G10 exemption and not get GS1 barcodes, you can still do so. You just have to have a registered trademark or a pending trademark. At least we have had success lately with getting trademarks for sellers and using pending trademarks in order to get brand registry access. So,
okay, that's not what I wanted to hear.
I know it's it's the bundle community. Although,
yeah, in the bundle community, I was like, look, I got all kinds of other stuff going on. I don't have time to deal with this. I was like, after the summit is over, I'll go back and look and see what is required. So I just, sell my other stuff, and I can always come back to my bundles. But yeah.
Well, there's an upside though. There is a positive silver lining.
Okay.
You know that if you have brand registry access, that now there's such a thing as virtual bundles.
Yes, there isn't such thing as virtual bundles. Yes. Right.
If you have your brand trademark set up, you can create virtual bundles as well as physical bundles. Right. So maybe you're selling Kit Kats and Hershey bars as a bundle. You might decide to make Kit Kats in a gift box and Hershey bars in a gift box, and then a virtual bundle of Kit Kats and Hershey bars. And then the cool thing about that is that virtual bundle allows you to, if you find out that everyone hates Kit Kats, but they love Hershey bars, then you sell all the Hershey bars and then figure out what to do with the Kit Kats without having to recall all the inventory and then split the package. So.
That is true. That is true. That is absolutely true. Yeah. We were talking about virtual bundles, I think, in November, December, somewhere off in there. So, okay. Well, what else did I not ask so that we can make sure that all of the people that need to know this is what's happening out here in the universe and the challenges, the struggle is real for the sellers.
Sure. Well, Katie, what is your number one takeaway you want sellers to know?
I want them to keep their receipts. Keep documentation. Let's see. When it comes to private label products, I guess having a handle on the hijackers or a plan to, I guess, somehow deal with those. I think that's something we didn't touch on as much. We've seen an uptick in that.
Yeah.
I don't know, what are some of the advice you would give?
Advice I'd give, let's see. So major things, just like you get oil changes on your car, account health reviews are still ever essential. Normally when we see the suspended accounts, it's, multiple things. It's rare that we get someone that comes in that's got like one IP claim and their entire account shut down. Mm-hmm. It's usually there's like several things going on. And it's not, I don't want to say it was avoidable, but it was possibly preventable. So it's making sure, doing those account health reviews, like I talked about in the last masterclass, doing stuff like that, to be proactive on the account, keeping receipts like Katie mentioned is crucial because you never know who's going to need them. It could be Amazon, could be the IRS, it could be your state auditor. You just don't know. I heard Texas recently was roving around in white pickup trucks with the state comptroller's office. So Got to watch out for them. Yeah.
And watch performance notifications. So like if you do see something that comes up and checking your email, it's always best to address it sooner rather than later. Amazon wants you to be proactive about it, taking a handle on it. So if you can address it as soon as you see it pop up, that's definitely the best way to go about it and prevent full account suspensions.
Okay. So
and sign up for the advanced masterclass so that you learn even more.
Yeah,
you grow your business. And what's our special offer? I guess we're going to give 50% off the first month of Seller Basics if you're a new Seller Basics subscriber and you sign up for the masterclass. So
there's an added bonus.
I'll send you the information for them to use for that.
Okay, well, we'll make sure it's somewhere on this page and some links so that you guys will be able to see it and you'll be able to access it. And that way you'll be able to access it. We'll have to talk about what your bonus is for the summit, though, because we'll talk about that offline. So whatever his bonus is for those people who grab the all access pass, the bonus will be on this page as well. But I do recommend his program. So I do have something to say. There's a couple of sellers, and I'm just going to say this. I know that you said just a second ago about when seller health is extremely important. And that, there's a sequence of things that have happened. So I can tell you that some of the sellers that I've recently run into, they literally had everything happen like in 1 week or 2 weeks, meaning they had the IP claims hit along with the late shipments hit, along with all of everything hit all at the same time. And their ability to recover from it was just, they felt like it wasn't going to happen. So they just kind of walked away and said, I'm done with this. But again, they didn't have any prior history of anything crazy happening. So do you think those types of sellers where everything hit, all the IP claims came at the same time, the late deliveries came in the same, all of the other stuff came in, do you think there's still a chance that they can recover that account?
Absolutely. I think it's going to be really hard if they try to DIY it. And remember, the first two appeals are really key. It's like they say in learning, primacy is everything. So you want to make sure that that first appeal, is spot on, especially the 72-hour notice. That's your time to shine. So when sellers come to us and they have us write their 72-hour appeal, it's I'd say 95% of the time we're able to avoid any account disruption whatsoever and get them reinstated. And then that small 5% of the time is there's something else going on, and so it's just maybe they didn't have invoices and Amazon was asking for invoices and we still submitted the appeal, but if they're asking for A, B, and C and you give them A and C, it's hard to still, go forward without B. So it's, but
I think it was, for this person I know personally, it was first they got the IP claims, then they got 4 days later. So they started responding to the IP claim stuff. And then the next thing was 3 days later, okay, yes, some late notices. Then you got okay, she was like, I cannot win for lose it. It was like every 4 days or every 3 days, something was happening. What are they doing? They're picking apart my account. Why is my account, everything I'm selling? I was like, I don't know. I can't answer that question.
There's two things that could be at play there. One is she could have been, whenever you hit certain thresholds, and of course, our former seller performance investigator, she's already stepped out for the day, but if she was here, I'd be calling Carolina over. But as she mentioned, she was telling us all about the inner workings of Amazon. It's, as you hit certain velocity thresholds, depends on the size of your account. Some sellers might have a $1,500 velocity threshold. Others might have, some sellers could have a $100,000 velocity. It depends on what your history with Amazon is. But as you hit your velocity threshold, that's going to trigger a manual audit of your account. And they're going to pick apart that account just because it's protecting Amazon. They want to make sure, one of the things Carolina talked about is that the number one time they would see suspensions for sellers in the electronics category was when a new iPad came out, because people would be making tons of money selling iPads for $300, and seller performance is not idiots. They know they're for sale at the Apple store for $699. So if you're selling them for $300, there's obviously counterfeit. They're either stolen or counterfeit. You don't sell things that much of a loss. So it's when you have, but those velocity thresholds are there to protect consumers and other sellers, because so
that may have been it, because she had one heck of a Q4. One heck of a Q4, and then she was like, and my whole life just it's just flushed down the toilet. I said, no, it's not. We had to take them one at a time. She's like, I can't get any more emails from them. I'm just so tired at this point. I did recommend that they reach out to you. And but I was like, you gotta try to figure out how you can backtrack and try and answer each one of these questions. And she's like, I just don't understand why it's all happening at the same time. So it was probably a velocity thing where she hit a certain threshold and now she's fair game. I mean, like really, let's dissect everything. Pull the sheets back and let's see what's happening.
Unfortunately, it's there to protect. I mean, it's there to protect sellers, and everything else. Because the last thing, the last thing that you as a seller or I as a seller want is another seller on our listing. I can tell you the frustration when I was in law school and that shampoo that I was talking about that I sold so many units of. I remember one day logging on because I had 95% of the buy box on that product. I was ruthless. I would make 25 cents a bottle if I had to, just to maintain the buy box. Like I would, I liked making a couple bucks a bottle, but if I could make 25 cents and just still make a sale, I was, I had no, I was in law school. I was eating, Chipotle or
ramen every day.
Ramen, I was going to say ramen noodles.
Yeah, ramen every day was for me. It was 3 times a day.
He's like rice and spam. Yeah.
But it's, when you think about it, I remember one time there's somebody showed up on the listing and they're selling the same shampoo bottle and they were like $4.99 a bottle. And all of a sudden that whole day I had none of the buy box. I'm like, this is such crap. This is not fair. I'm like, I buy this product for $15 a bottle. I know that this is fake. Like, and it's saying it's shipping from Shenzhen. This product is made in Fort Worth. It's not like there's the math is like clearly this is not real. Nobody's shipping the product from Fort Worth to Shenzhen and then turning around and selling it for $10 under market price. And so but those velocity reviews, eventually that seller after about 2 days got knocked off, and it's probably because they hit one of those velocity reviews of, wait a second, this is impossible that they're doing this, and then they get kicked off. So
maybe. Well, I am so grateful for the two of you. I'm grateful for your time. I'm so thankful that you're part of the summit. So everyone who's watching the session, I hope you got a lot of value. If you grab the All Access Pass, you'll be able to come back and rewatch the session because he did give you a boatload of tips. Some golden nuggets. There's probably some things you need to revisit about your own business and how you're running it to make sure you don't run into these challenges if you're on Amazon. I am sure that some of these same tips will apply to other platforms depending on what platform. For a lot of sellers, Walmart is new. So eventually Walmart, as they get their act together, I'm sure you're going to run into some of the same challenges you're experiencing on Amazon. You're going to start experiencing that on Walmart. We don't know when that day is coming. We're not asking it to come soon, but just make sure you're doing everything above bar so that you don't run into problems.
And Seller Basics, by the way, is ready to handle Walmart because guess where our former seller performance investigator left Amazon to go work? Walmart.com. So she's had experience with both. So
there you go. So it's
ready, willing, and able to help. So
there you go. So they're there to help you as much as they can. And that day is coming for Walmart sellers. We don't know. It might be 2 years from now before they have everything in place, and they'll be like, "Oh, wait a minute, I can't sell these things." Yeah, it'll happen. They'll catch up. So thank you so much. Check this page for all of Jeff's social media assets, information about his company, links to his programs that they offer, and also that special that he is giving. What does it say? 50%? What did you say was?
50% off the first month if you're an All Access Pass subscriber. So
okay, so there you go. So 50% off. So definitely take advantage of that somewhere on this page. And this has been another episode of the eCom Seller Summit. We're going to say goodbye for now.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.